Today, I'm gonna be hosting the Champions League, but it's gonna be a 3v3 tournament. Not just that, we've also snuck in one club legend from every club in order to help them win it. So R9 Ronaldo is back at Madrid, Ronaldinho is back at Barcelona, Sir Bobby Charlton is back at Man United, and so many more. After simming through the group stages, here are the teams that qualified. Gerd Müller is back with a bang as Bayern Munich tops Group A. Man United making some strides as well as Bobby Charlton helps them secure the second spot. No Europa League for Sevilla as they've topped Group B. In a surprise second place, there's Arsenal with Thierry Henry. In a shocking turn of events, Napoli have topped Group C with the help of Dias Mertens. And even with Bellingham in the midfield and R9 up front, Madrid have come second. Free kicks, more like a free spot in the knockout stages as Andrea Pirlo drives Inter to the top of Group D. Before this, I didn't know that Eusebio played for Benfica and they've come second in Group D. This is not an open goal to miss. Torres helps Atletico top Group E. And yet again in a surprising result, Feyenoord make it through at the second spot with Hullet. This somehow knocked out Lazio. Alan Shearer is back and so are the winning ways for Newcastle as the top Group F. Although PSG don't have any club legends, I gave them Pele and they still came second. Carlos Tevez is back at City and they started with a bang. Leipzig don't even have any legends, yet they claimed the second spot. And in the final surprise of group stages, Ricardo Carvalho helps FC Porto top Group H. Meanwhile, Ronaldinho's Barca comes second. This is gonna be a tough round of 16. The first match is on and it's between Gerd Müller's Bayern Munich and Ruud Gullet's Feyenoord. Who's gonna take this one? I think Bayern. After a couple of misses early on in the game, Feyenoord took the lead with Gullet scoring the first goal. But within seconds, Bayern Munich replied with a goal of their own to equalize. The rest of the first half went pretty similar as both teams scored 2 goals each to tie at 3-3 at halftime. The second half started on a similar note to the first one as Feyenoord scored first. The game was going pretty head on in the second half as the scores were tied at 6-6 when Gerd Müller decided to score this. Bayern took over the lead a few seconds later as Koeman scored his next goal. And as expected, Gerd Müller's Bayern took the lead in the first leg at 8-6. Heading on into the second leg, and can Gullet's Feyenoord make the comeback to cover the deficit of 2 goals? Let's find out. Similar to the first leg, Feyenoord scored first as Gullet banged one into the back of the net. And not just one, he covered the entire deficit by scoring yet another goal for Feyenoord. Scores are all tied at 8-8 on aggregate. Bayern then went on to quickly reply as Sané scored his first goal, but then late in the first half, Jimenez scored a goal for Feyenoord, leveling the scores on aggregate at 9-9. Early on in the second half, Gerd Müller had a chance for Bayern and he buried. Somehow Jimenez ended up with an open goal and scored his goal. Apparently Feyenoord thought that this game was going too easy for them, so they decided to score this goofy ass own goal for Bayern. Aggregates are now at 12-10 for Bayern. With the final 1 minute left of the second leg, Feyenoord reduced the deficit to 1 goal on aggregate. Unfortunately for them, Kane got an easy chance in the dying seconds of the game and scored the winner. Bayern are now through to the quarterfinals. Second matchup in the round of 16, it's Pele's PSG versus Dias Mertens' Napoli, who isn't playing by the way. As expected, the first leg started off with a bang for PSG as they banged in not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 goals against Napoli, who could only score 1 back. Then they went on to start the second half in a similar fashion as Pele banged in the 5th goal. But Napoli weren't gonna give up so easy. They knew that they still had the second leg to fight for and banged in 3 more goals to end the match at 4-5. PSG just hate easy wins for some reason. PSG entering the second leg with just a 1 goal advantage. Can Napoli make a comeback? Let's find out. Yet again, however, the second leg started off on a high for PSG as they banged in 2 goals. But as I said, Napoli aren't gonna give up so easy. They banged in 2 goals to equalize this leg and bring the deficit to just 1 goal on aggregate. And those 2 goals were a big motivation for the Napoli players as they went on to score 3 more goals, which brings the aggregate to 9-7, giving Napoli the lead for the first time. Quickly enough though, Pele reduced the deficit to 1 goal. However, pretty early on in the second half, Napoli scored yet another goal. No. This is actually not happening. Napoli have extended their lead yet again. Unfortunately for Napoli, that would be the last goal they ever scored in this tie as PSG kept on banging goals after goals after goals to take the lead at 9-6 in the second leg all the way to 14-10 in favor of PSG. Napoli did their best, but it just wasn't enough. PSG are now through to the quarterfinals where they'll face Bayern Munich. Next up is one of my favorite draws. Alan Shearer's Newcastle takes on Ronaldinho's Barcelona. This is gonna be one to watch. Alan Shearer makes the first mistake for Frankie de Jong to score and take the lead for Barcelona. Soon enough though, Tonali made a comeback and the scores were tied at 1-1. The first half started pretty much in Newcastle's favor because they scored 4 past Barcelona to take the lead, but Barcelona weren't completely sitting back. They scored 2 back in order to have a chance in the second half. The second half, however, was a completely different story and the tables had completely turned as Barcelona scored 4 and Newcastle could only manage 2. Literally a mirror opposite of the first half as scores were tied at 6-6 out of the first leg. The second leg now begins. Let's see if Ronaldinho's Barca have really got the juice or Newcastle are gonna be the surprise winners here. Newcastle had a mission on their mind and they started off right that way as Alan Shearer
Shearer banged in the first goal. And although Ronaldinho got one goal for Barcelona as well, Newcastle were absolutely relentless as they went on to get a lead of 3-1 very early in the half. Later on in the first half, both teams scored one goal each, but Newcastle were in the lead at 4-2. This was heading Newcastle's way. Can Barcelona pull something out of the hat and cause a miracle to happen? Barcelona weren't gonna sit back and watch, and they started the second half right in that direction as they banged in 2 goals to equalize with Newcastle at 4 each. And although they got one more goal pretty soon, there seemed to be a fire lit under Shearer's men as they went on to score 4 more goals to take the score to 8-4. This was getting out of Barcelona's hands, and there was no comeback likely at this point. And that's what happened, unfortunately. Although Ronaldinho got their last goal to make the score 8-6, Newcastle were comfortably going through to the quarterfinals as they won 8-6 on aggregate.
Next up in the round of 16, we have Andrea Pirlo's Inter coming up against Sir Bobby Charlton's Man United, who will take the crown. Andrea Pirlo meant business as he started off the scoring with a pretty simple finish. Man United were quick to reply as they leveled the score with yet another simple finish. In the dying minutes of the first half, Bastoni scored to make the score 2-1. Man United were not holding back as Sir Bobby Charlton scored their second one. Man United out here trying Man City's tiki-taka, but unfortunately that just resulted in another goal for Inter. Captain Bruno Fernandes, however, wasn't letting it down easy as he scored yet another goal. But right from kickoff, Bastoni was not stopping at all. He scored yet another goal. In the dying minutes of the game, Bruno Fernandes scored yet another goal to reduce the deficit by 1 goal. Second leg between Man United and Inter is now on. The first half of the second leg was again very neck to neck as both teams backed in 1 goal each. However, Inter had their eyes set on the prize as they banged in 2 more goals before halftime. Man United equalized the score in the first half of the second leg by scoring 3 more goals, tying the score at 4-4. On aggregate, they were still behind by just 1 goal. But literally within seconds as the second half started, Man United scored their next goal to equalize the tally on aggregate as well. The job wasn't finished and Man United decided to take the lead in the tie for the first time by scoring yet another goal, making the score 6-4. But if you thought this was done, not even close as Inter banked in their 5th goal soon later. And although Man United were temporarily able to take the lead back by scoring 1 more goal, but literally in the dying seconds of the second leg, Inter decided to equalize on aggregate by scoring their 6th. But the story of the third leg was extremely different as Man United not only scored the 1 goal to take the lead, but they went on to bank 4 more goals to take their tally at a 5-goal lead. They were leading the third leg 5-0 in the second half when Inter finally scored their first goal. Unfortunately, that was of no use as Man United scored 1 more goal, but Inter couldn't even score another. The overall tie ends at 17-12 for Man United and they go through to the quarterfinals. Next up in the round of 16, we have Fernando Torres' Atletico Madrid taking on Eusebio's SL Benfica. The game started off neck to neck as both teams banged in 2 goals each, making the score 2-all at halftime. The second half started on a similar note as Di Maria made a mistake and Torres was able to score an open goal. And soon after, because of Llorente's mistake, Kokchu was able to score for Benfica. Later on in the second half though, Atletico were leading 6-4 when Eusebio got a chance from the corner and scored 1 goal for Benfica. However, in the dying seconds of the game, Di Maria made yet another mistake and Atletico were able to crawl back another goal. The first leg ended at 7-5 on aggregate. Benfica started off the second leg on a high as they scored the first goal, but then Atletico were very quick to reply as they got their first goal as well. But as the scores were tied at 2-2 in the dying seconds of the first half, Di Maria got the ball in his own D in his own half and took a chance at miracle. And he was able to reduce Benfica's deficit to 1 on aggregate. Not just that, but Benfica started the second half on a high as they were able to take the scores to 6-4, making the aggregate equalized at 11 each. But as bad luck would have it, Atletico were not giving up easy and they were able to bank in 2 goals in the dying seconds of the second half to keep their lead from the first leg intact and win the round of 16 tie-up at 13-11. They are through to the quarterfinals. Next up in the round of 16, it was Sevilla facing RB Leipzig. Both teams had no icons on their squads. The first half started off in Sevilla's favour as they did manage to get the first goal, but overall in the first half, Leipzig decided to turn up the heat and score 4 goals past Sevilla's defense to make it 4-2 at the end of the first half. The story of the remaining first leg was pretty similar. Leipzig banged in 2 more goals to take their tally to 9 goals. Meanwhile, Sevilla could manage to score only 1 more goal, ending the first leg tie at 9-5 for Leipzig. Time for the second leg between Leipzig and Sevilla. Can Sevilla make the comeback? The first half started in favour of Sevilla as they did manage to get the first goal, but soon enough Leipzig were able to reply and match the score at 1-1. Similarly, the rest of the half was pretty neck to neck, but Leipzig got the slight edge by scoring 4 goals and Sevilla ended up with 3. Sevilla now needed to score 5 goals without conceding in the second half, which was looking quite unlikely. And yet again, the second half was extremely close as the scores were tied at 6-6 with 25 seconds to go. And although Sevilla managed to finally take that one goal lead, it was unfortunately too late as they had lost 15-12 on aggregate. Leipzig go through to the quarterfinals. Next matchup in the round of 16 was Ricardo Carvalho's Porto going off against Thierry Henry's Arsenal. I think Arsenal have it in the bag. And as we expected, Arsenal were able to bang in 5 goals against Porto while only conceding 1. This was getting way too obvious. However, things were looking slightly better for Porto as they scored 3 more goals in the second half, but unfortunately conceded 5 more. That means that the first leg would end at 10-4 to Arsenal, heading on into the second leg. However, the second leg started off on a very similar note as they let Thierry Henry run through empty on the wing, who got an open net to score his first goal. And although Porto conceded 4 more goals to make their deficit worse, they were able to pull back 4 goals and end the first half at 5-4. Is there a comeback brewing? I doubt. The second half started on a high for Porto as they leveled the scores for the first time since the game started. But as fate would have it, Thierry Henry's Arsenal were too overpowered for Porto and they banged in 5 more goals to end the game at 10-6. Overall on aggregate, Arsenal go through to the quarters winning 20-10. And for the final matchup of round of 16, it's my favorite one yet. Carlos Tevez' Man City coming up against R9's Real Madrid. This is gonna be a feisty one. And as expected, the game started pretty head on as Vinicius got the first goal for Real Madrid and soon after Rodri got the equalizer for Man City. A few minutes later, the scores were tied at 3-3 in the first half when Ronaldo got the chance and he banged it in, making it 4-3 for Real Madrid. Keeping on the momentum they just gained, Real Madrid kept on going as they scored 2 more goals to take the first half score to 6-3 in favor of Real Madrid. Man City desperately needed to make a comeback, but Vinicius Jr. had other plans as he banged in the 7th goal. A few seconds later, Carlos Tevez found the window for Man City's 4th goal, but Bellingham got a chance and banged in the 8th one for Real Madrid. The story of the rest of the second half was pretty similar as Real Madrid were able to scoop in 2 more goals, but Man City could only manage to score 1, taking the aggregate to 10-5 for the first leg. Can Man City do the impossible and make a comeback? Time to find out in the second leg, as very soon in the first half of the second leg, Carlos Tevez put in a flying header to give Man City the lead at 1-0. 4 more goals to go. Man City were determined to get the comeback and they ended the first half at 3-0, bringing the aggregate to 10-8. Only 2 more goals to go. Can Man City do it? After being inactive in the entire first half, R9 decided to score 1 and bring in the aggregate to 11-8. Man City was so focused on attacking that they completely forgot to defend and gave yet another open goal to R9, bringing the aggregate to 12-8. This was getting out of hand. But Man City weren't gonna give up so easy. They made sure to keep on attacking, keep on pressing Real Madrid and were able to manage 7 goals in the second leg. Unfortunately for them though, Real Madrid were able to get 3 more goals, taking the aggregate to 14-12 for Real Madrid. This was a tough fight and Real Madrid go through. Now it's time for the quarterfinals. Moving on to the quarterfinals, and the first match is between Gerd Muller's Bayern Munich going up against Pele's PSG. This is the matchup to watch out for. Both teams started off really neck to neck as both of them scored 2 goals each to bring the score to 2-all 1 minute and 30 seconds into the first half. But beyond that, the story of the next minute and a half was completely different as Paris Saint-Germain absolutely dominated Bayern and banged past 3 more goals to bring the score to 5-2 at half time. This was a reality check and Bayern Munich needed to wake up. Unfortunately for Bayern, that wasn't the case at all as Mbappe scored 2 more goals to bring the tally to 7-2. Soon enough, Gerd Müller took control and scored the 3rd goal for Bayern Munich. But in the dying seconds of the game, both teams scored 1 goal each, with Gerd Müller scoring for Bayern and Pele scoring for PSG, bringing the first leg score to 8-4. And then something really goofy happened as Gerd Müller decided to give away a free goal to PSG, who were already leading. What are you doing, man? I don't think he'll be a club legend after this game. Anyways, moving on to the second leg, and it started off just like the first leg, very neck to neck, with both teams scoring 1 goal each early on in the first half. In the second half, Bayern had a huge mountain to climb, but they were not showing signs of it at all as Pele scored the next goal to bring it to 2-1. Next up, both teams scored 1 goal each to bring the scores to 3-2. But unfortunately for Bayern, PSG dominated right after and ended the game at 5-2, which means that PSG took the victory on aggregate 14-6. This was a humiliation for Bayern and Gerd Müller's own goal was really iconic in the wrong way. The first team into the semi-finals is PSG. Next up in the quarterfinals is Alan Shearer's Newcastle going up against Bobby Charlton's Man United. Although both squads were pretty evenly matched, the first half was completely in favor of Man United as they banged in 3 goals before Newcastle could only score 1 to end the first half at 3-1 for Man United. The story of the second half of the first leg was extremely similar as Newcastle could not even score 1 goal, but on the other hand, Man United banged in 3 more goals to take their tally to 6-1. Newcastle have just created a mountain for themselves that they might not be able to climb. Right now the tie has become extremely one-sided. It's now time for the second leg between Man United and Newcastle. I doubt that Newcastle will be able to make this comeback. Newcastle started the second leg the right way because not only did they score one goal but scored yet another goal to take their tally to 2-0 and have the advantage in the second leg. And although Man United scored one banger bicycle kick to get their one goal back, Newcastle actually started doing the impossible and scored one goal after another as they reduced the deficit to just one goal on aggregate. Now the scores are at 7-6 on aggregate. Can Newcastle actually pull the miracle off? Can they actually do it? We'll find out in the second half of the second leg. And sadly for Newcastle, the story of the second half of the second leg was very different, as not only did they concede 2 goals before scoring their first one for the half, they went on to concede 3 more goals to end the tie 12-7 on aggregate in favor of Man United. Although it was looking promising for Newcastle, they just couldn't hack it in the end. Man United are through to the semi-finals. Next up in the quarters, we have Fernando Torres' Atletico going up against the iconless Leipzig. I think Atletico will have this one easy. However, to my surprise, this matchup was pretty neck to neck as both teams scored 1 goal each in the first half to end it at 1-1. However, the second half started in favor of Leipzig, who banged on 2 goals to take the lead at 3-1. Atletico were not gonna sit back though, as Fernando Torres and co decided to level it on all terms at 3-3, scoring 2 goals past Leipzig. But then literally in the last minute, Leipzig decided that they were not gonna take home the draw and banged in 2 goals in the dying seconds in order to take the victory at 5-3 on the first leg. This one goes to the second leg as well. The second half started extremely neck to neck as both teams scored not 1, not 2, but 3 goals past each other until 30 seconds were remaining. And then Atletico decided to reduce the deficit by half, 8-7 for Leipzig. Just one more goal needed to equalize as they headed on into the second half. The second half of the second leg, the final leg of this matchup, was again very neck to neck as both teams kept on banging goals to equalize at 5-5 with 1 minute to go. Until Atletico finally found the hope to score their 6th goal for the match, 10-9 for Leipzig. Just one more goal and they could win it all, but unfortunately they could not conjure up another goal in a minute, and with the surprise of the season, Leipzig go through to the semi-finals. Just one more matchup of the quarterfinals remaining, and it's gonna be Thierry Henry's Arsenal going up against R9 Ronaldo's Real Madrid. The first leg started quite in favor of Real Madrid as they were able to bang in not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 goals past Arsenal, who could only reply with 1, ending the first half at 4-1 for Real Madrid. This could get real ugly if Arsenal don't do anything now. Heading on into the second half, Arsenal started off on a positive as they scored 1 goal back, but as fate would have it, Real Madrid were quick to reply with a goal of their own. And very unfortunately for Arsenal, they did not just reply with 1 goal but then went on to score 4 more goals to bring their total to 9, while Arsenal could only conjure 1 more goal to bring their total to 4, ending the first leg at 9-4 for Real Madrid. If Arsenal want to win this, they need to pull off a miracle. The second half was yet another series of unfortunate events as Real Madrid went on to score 3 goals in the very first half before Arsenal could even reply with 1 goal. Now they were back 7 goals on aggregate, which means that this was even beyond God now. However, right before halftime, both teams were able to conjure 1 more goal each, bringing the total to 5-3 for the first half of the second leg. And in classic Arsenal fashion, the second half did not go according to plan at all. Real Madrid were able to score 4 more goals, extending their lead to 11. This is the widest gap we've had so far, while Arsenal could not even score 1 goal, ending the match at 9-3 and totaling the aggregate to 18-7 for Real Madrid, who are through to the semi-finals facing Leipzig. Alright ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the semi-finals. First one between Leipzig and Madrid. I mean, this one's pretty obvious. Madrid has R9, Leipzig has no one. I think it's an easy win for Madrid, but let's jump into the game. Contrary to popular opinion, this leg started off in favor of Leipzig as they not only scored 1 goal but scored 2 by both Olmo and Werner. That was a wake-up call for Madrid as R9 stepped up and showed who's the real icon on the pitch, scored 2 goals back to equalize at 2-2 midway through the first half. The rest of the half went pretty similar as Leipzig banged in 2 more goals, Madrid scored 2 to equalize again, and not just that, they banged in yet another goal to lead the match at 5-4. But just before halftime, Leipzig had something to say and they banged in their 5th goal to equalize at 5-5 at halftime. I didn't think this was gonna be so close. What is going on? The story of the second half of the first leg was completely different as Madrid finally woke up and R9 showed who's the boss on the pitch as they banged in 5 more goals for Madrid. Actually 4. 1 was scored by Bellingham, but out of the 10 goals in the first leg by Madrid, 9 was scored by R9. That's gotta be some sort of a record. End of the first leg and Madrid were leading 10-5. This one's pretty obvious heading into the second leg of the semi-final. Second leg, however, again started in a similar fashion to the first one as Madrid started the second leg right where they left off the first leg as Bellingham scored the first goal. But Leipzig weren't gonna let them have it that easy as they banged in 2 goals to make the score 2-1 in the second leg. Although later in the first half, Madrid banged in 2 more goals to make the aggregate 13-7. This is getting further and further away from Leipzig. Openda opened the scoring for the second half as he banged in a goal for Leipzig, but Madrid were just relentless. They went on to score 4 more goals before Leipzig could score one in the dying seconds of the game, which was ultimately of no use as Madrid had won the tie 17-9 on aggregate, which is insane for a UCL semi-final on their go to the final. Leipzig had a great run though, especially since they were without a legend. Next up in the semi-finals, we have a battle for the ages as Pele's PSG meet Sir Bobby Charlton's Man United. And Man United started on a strong foot as Rashford scored the first goal. However, in the following minutes of the first half, it was pretty unhappening, but PSG scored 2 goals as they took the lead to 2-1. In the second half though, Man United couldn't do much as PSG banged in 2 more goals to extend their lead to 4-1. A lot less goals than usual, but the tie ends in favor of PSG with 3 goals ahead. If Man United wanna win this, they need to make a miraculous comeback. Will this be a remontada? Let's see. The second leg started extremely neck to neck as both teams started scoring 1 goal after the other to tie the goals at 2-2 until PSG finally took a lead in the game, scoring their third goal. Soon enough though, in the first half, Man United replied with a goal of their own to tie the goals at 3-3. On aggregate, however, PSG are still in the lead of 3 goals. Can Man United make the comeback in the 3 minutes left? They went on to score the first goal of the second half, reducing the deficit to 2 goals. However, PSG had 1 more goal in their locker as Mbappe banged it home, and that's where the tie ended. Very unhappening, but PSG comfortably take the win. PSG are now through to the finals to face Real Madrid. On to the finals as it's gonna be Pele's PSG and R9 Ronaldo's Real Madrid. Can PSG finally win their first UCL title with the help of a fake icon? Only time will tell. Madrid started off on a strong foot as expected as Vinicius banged in the first goal early on in the first half. Mbappe wasn't gonna let him have it though as he scored the first goal for PSG in the final. However, the rest of the first half was extremely one-sided as R9 showed Pele he's the real icon and banged in 4 more goals to take the tally to 5-1 at halftime. PSG need to pull off another remontada and with Pele it might be likely. They started off the second half on a bright note as Mbappe banged in the goal to reduce the deficit to 3 goals. This is getting extremely feisty. And after being accused of being a fake icon, Pele banged in a goal to bring down the deficit to 2 goals. Just 2 goals left. Can PSG do it? And unfortunately the answer was no. But fortunately for Madrid, they have done it. They have won the 3v3 UCL in the final in the Champions League. The Champions League kings do it again. They won their 14th title and R9 Ronaldo is gonna be one happy legend. Unfortunately for PSG, they still haven't won their trophy. If you enjoyed this tournament as much as I did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. This took a lot of work. Really appreciate that and see you guys in the next one.